All right, let's be real for a second. This upcoming draft? It's not just another year where you sit back and hope things work out. This one feels different. You can feel the pressure building, right? Like everything kind of depends on getting this pick right. One wrong move and it sets the team back. But one right move? That could change everything moving forward. And the craziest part is, there are a few directions they could go here. And each one tells you a completely different story about what this team is trying to become. So, yeah, you're gonna want to pay attention to this one. So click the like button and subscribe to stay informed. Let's go. Something is quietly building inside the Minnesota Vikings war room. And if you're not paying close attention right now, you might miss the turning point of this franchise heading into the 2026 NFL Draft. Because here's the reality. This isn't just another draft. This is the draft. The pressure is real, and it's coming from every direction. After a free agency period filled with questionable contracts and roster inconsistencies, the Vikings are now staring at pick number 18, knowing one thing: they cannot afford to miss. Not this time. Not with the current roster structure. Not with expectations rising around defensive coordinator Brian Flores' system. And when you start digging into what's actually being discussed internally and across league circles, one name keeps surfacing as the perfect fit for Minnesota. A player who could immediately plug into Flores' aggressive, chaos-driven defensive identity. That name is McNeil Warren. According to recent analysis highlighted in the discussion, Warren isn't just another safety prospect. He's being viewed as a scheme weapon. And that distinction matters. Because in Flores' system, versatility isn't optional. It's required. We're talking about a defense that leaned heavily on two high safety looks last season. Over 56% of opponent dropbacks, one of the highest rates in the league. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite that conservative shell, Minnesota still ranked among the top teams in defensive back blitz rate. That combination, disguise plus aggression, is exactly where Warren thrives. Turn on the tape, and you immediately notice it. His closing speed isn't just good, it's violent. He can line up deep, read the play, and explode downhill in a blink. Tight end running a short route? He's already there. Ball barely out of the quarterback's hand? He's contesting it. And that's what separates him. He doesn't just react, he arrives. There's also something else that stands out, something Vikings fans will instantly recognize. His size, his physicality, the way he plays near the box. It draws natural comparisons to Harrison Smith, not as a copy, but as a stylistic echo. A player who can disguise coverage, step into pressure packages, and still hold up against the run. And make no mistake, Warren can stop the run. He's a reliable tackler, even in space, capable of making those low, shoestring tackles that prevent explosive plays. That translates on Sundays. But here's where the conversation gets even more intriguing. Because while Warren might be the safe projection, he's not the only direction this team could go. Internally and among analysts, there's growing discussion that Minnesota might lean toward a best player available strategy instead of locking into a positional need. And if that happens, the entire board opens up dramatically. There's also another safety in the mix, Dylan Thiemann, who brings elite athletic traits and relentless work ethic. But when you compare the two side by side, the debate becomes fascinating. Thiemann might be the grinder, the high-motor athlete. But Warren, he's the chess piece. The one who fits exactly into what Flores wants to build. And that raises a critical question for this franchise. Do you draft for upside, or do you draft for system impact? Because if the Vikings truly believe in Flores' vision, if they're committing to that aggressive, disguise-heavy defensive identity, then passing on a player like Warren could be something they regret the moment he steps onto another field. At the same time, there's a bigger layer to all of this that fans can't ignore. This roster still has holes. Real ones. And with multiple potential starters needed from this draft class, reaching for a single positional fit, even a strong one, comes with risk. That's why the idea of flexibility at pick 18 is gaining traction, because one unexpected slide on draft night could completely change Minnesota's strategy in seconds. And trust me, there will be surprises. Every year, someone falls. Every year, a team hesitates. And every year, one franchise capitalizes. The question is, will it be the Vikings this time? Or will they play it safe and hope it's enough? Because right now, everything points to this pick defining more than just the 2026 season. It could shape the identity of this team for years to come. So now I want to hear from you. If you're on the clock at pick 18, are you taking McNeil Warren, or are you going in a completely different direction? Drop your take in the comments right now, because this debate is just getting started. And here's where things start to escalate. Because if you thought the McNeil-Warren discussion was the peak of this draft conversation, it's not even close. There's another name, one that could completely flip the Vikings' draft strategy on its head if things fall a certain way on draft night. And this is where things go from interesting to potentially franchise-altering. We're talking about Caleb Downs. Yes, that Caleb Downs. According to everything outlined in the breakdown, he's not just viewed as the top safety in this class. There's a real argument that he's the best overall player in the entire 2026 NFL Draft. Let that sink in for a second. Now imagine this scenario. You're sitting there on draft night. Picks start rolling in. The top 5 goes as expected. Then top 8. Then top 10. And suddenly, Downs is still on the board. Now, what do you do? Because if he slips past that critical range, around pick 10 or 11, the entire conversation in Minnesota changes instantly. This is no longer about sitting patiently at 18 and taking what comes to you. This becomes a moment where the Vikings might have to get aggressive. And not just slightly aggressive. We're talking about packaging picks, potentially moving assets like pick 92 or 97, and jumping up the board to secure a player who could redefine the defense. Because pairing someone like Downs with Brian Flores? That's not just a good fit. That's dangerous. The comparison brought up, and it's not a small one, is Kyle Hamilton, a player who can line up anywhere, disguise intentions, blitz, cover, and completely erase offensive game plans. If Downs reaches even a fraction of that level, you're talking about a foundational defensive piece for the next decade. And this is where the Vikings front office faces a defining decision. Do you stay disciplined and trust your board? Or do you recognize a rare opportunity and go get the guy? Because moments like that don't come often. But let's say that scenario doesn't happen. Let's say Downs is gone early, just like most expect. The board still offers intriguing options, and one of the most fascinating names gaining traction is cornerback Jam McCoy. Now this is a completely different story, and honestly, one that should excite fans who love player development arcs. McCoy wasn't handed anything. Coming out of high school, he wasn't a headline recruit. Not a 5-star. Not even close. In fact, he was ranked as the 126th cornerback in his class. Think about that. And now? He's being talked about as a potential first-round talent. That kind of growth tells you everything about his mindset, his work ethic, and his ability to develop at a high level. He turned himself into a first-team All-SEC player, one of the toughest conferences in college football. Yes, there's the ACL injury. That's part of the story. He missed an entire season because of it. But here's what matters. he came back, showed up at his pro day, and reminded everyone exactly who he is. A 4.38 in the 40-yard dash, a 38-inch vertical, a 10'7" broad jump. The athleticism didn't disappear. If anything, it reinforced the idea that this guy could become a true shutdown corner at the next level. And for a Vikings defense that thrives on flexibility and pressure, having a corner who can hold up one-on-one, that unlocks everything. Now let's circle back to a familiar name, Dylan Thiemann. Because if the board starts clearing out, if Downs is gone, McCoy is gone, Warren is gone. This is where Thiemann becomes very real at pick 18. And here's the thing about him. He's not just an athlete. He's a worker. The kind of player coaches rave about. The kind of guy teammates point to as the tone setter. According to the insights in the breakdown, everywhere he's been, Purdue, Oregon, the message is the same. Hardest worker in the building. And that matters more than people think. Yes, the measurables pop. A 4.35 40-yard dash. A 41-inch vertical. That's elite territory. But what really stands out is how he approaches the game. He's relentless. Now, does he have the same range or size as McNeil Warren? No. That's the trade-off. He's slightly smaller, doesn't bring the same length. But what he does bring is intensity. And in Flores' system, that intensity can be weaponized. Then there's the wild card option. And this one might catch fans off guard. Jordan Tyson, a wide receiver. Now, at first glance, it doesn't make sense. The Vikings already have weapons. This doesn't feel like a pressing need. But if you truly commit to a best player available approach, Tyson becomes incredibly interesting. Because his game, it mirrors something Vikings fans know very well. Elite route running, strong hands, inside-outside versatility. The comparison made in the breakdown connects him stylistically to players like Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, and Jordan Addison. And that's not something you throw around lightly. Yes, there are concerns, soft tissue injuries, durability questions. But if he's on the board at 18, you have to think about it. Because adding another elite separator to this offense could elevate the entire unit. And finally, the most controversial option of them all, Caden McDonald. This is the pick that would split the fan base instantly. A nose tackle. Top 20, not flashy, not exciting, not the kind of selection that gets fans jumping out of their seats on draft night, but maybe exactly what this team needs. Because while he may not offer much as a pass rusher, his value comes in one specific area, dominating the run game. If he hits his ceiling, you're looking at a player who could anchor the defensive line alongside Jalen Redmond and completely change how offenses attack Minnesota. And that's the dilemma. Do you chase excitement, or do you build dominance in the trenches? Because if McDonald turns into that elite run-stuffing force, suddenly this defense becomes something entirely different. And that brings us back to where we started. This draft isn't just about talent. It's about identity. Every name we just talked about represents a different direction for this franchise, a different philosophy, a different version of what the Minnesota Vikings could become in 2026 and beyond. So now it's your turn. If you're the GM, what are you doing at pick 18? Are you trading up for a superstar, playing it safe with a system fit, taking a gamble on upside? Drop your full take in the comments. And if you're ready for more Vikings coverage like this, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, because draft season is only getting started, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Go Vikings!